Hello world, my name is Atticus and welcome back to the Break Room. Today, we're gonna try out Fell Seal Arbiter's Mark. I don't know terribly much about this game. Oh, difficulty settings. Oh, there's a lot of them. Interesting. Don't worry over much about these settings as you will be able to change them in-game from the troops menu, while not in combat. Interesting. I'm actually working on a video about difficulty right now. So this is fortuitous. Okay, so difficulty presets, which I imagine will change. Whoops.
In the dark days of centuries past, an otherworldly beast known as the Maw appeared in Tiora, leaving ruin in its wake. In this time of need, 7 great heroes rose against the threat. The battle was fierce, but the heroes prevailed, and the beast was vanquished. In slaying the beast, the heroes gained the power of immortality. They formed the Council of Immortals to rule over the land and enforce order to prevent such a catastrophe from ever happening again. But powerful as the Immortals may be, they are few. Thus, they created the Order of Arbiters to enforce their will and protect the land. As agents of the Immortals, Arbiters wield absolute authority. They are judge, jury, and executioner. But in time, the Order of Arbiters has grown complacent and corrupted. Could a threat as dire as the ancient beast itself be looming over Tiora?
I'm digging it already. The game recommended I use a gamepad, but the input is very delayed, so I'm gonna try a keyboard and mouse instead. Good work, Anodyne. You handled yourself well. Thanks, Captain. I don't feel I actually did all that much, though. Violent confrontation isn't always necessary or desirable. Negotiation is an equally important skill for an Arbiter. Will we get to negotiate? Of course, you're right, Captain. Are you sure Raynor knew the time we agreed to meet, Captain? Yes, he knows, but knowing Raynor, he's probably... Did you hear that? I didn't. Help! Please! Anyone! It sounds like it came from the alley just ahead. Let's go. Oh my. What is the meaning of this, sir? Why on earth would you strike down an unarmed man? Explain yourself. Pesky witnesses. What a bother. You, hireling, earn your coin for once and dispatch these interlopers. Gellig. Defeat Alphonse. Okay, I was legitimately wondering which side we were on. Deployment. In this phase, you can decide which allies you want to join the battle. You can place characters on the glowing cyan tiles until the unit limit has been reached. Shown in the top left corner of the screen. You can't see my cursor. But it is pointing to it with a cursor that looks a lot like mine, so just pretend, please. Sometimes specific characters will automatically join the battle and cannot be removed. Okay. At all times, the bottom right of the screen contains a list of buttons you can currently use. When using a mouse, you can also click on those icons to activate them. The left mouse button acts as the confirm key and the right button as the cancel key. At most times in the game, you can press the help button to enter the help screen, where you can get information about relevant things shown on screen. Lastly, you can disable these tutorials in the options, although it is not recommended to do so for new players. Okay. see. Do we have other people? Okay, we have Virgil, a wizard. Lana, a mender. And that's it. Anodyne is a mercenary. Kyrie is a mercenary mender. So yeah, let's go with the wizard. Face that way. Okay, 3 of 3 units placed. Let's start the battle. By lawful decree of the Arbiters, I order you to lay down your weapons and surrender. Now. You are an Arbiter? This is even more tiresome than I thought. Hireling, exterminate these pests for me and you will receive a tidy bonus. At once, Lord Alphonse. As you wish. Anodyne, it looks as though you are about to face your first real battle. So are we Anodyne? Yes, I see. I'm ready, Captain. I'm sure you are, but why don't we quickly review the basics, just to be safe? I don't think that's the safe thing to do. And here's why. There's a man with a sword and a man with a hammer very close to us. And I don't get the impression that they're willing to wait for us to review the basics. In Felsteel, Arbiter's Mark combat is turn-based. Every unit will get an individual turn where they can move and or take an action, in any order. You can see the global turn order at the top of the screen. A unit can move up to a maximum amount of tiles every turn, shown by their movement range, the foot icon. Kyrie can move 4. That movement is also restricted by terrain, and units can only reach tiles that are within their vertical movement range, shown by the jumping icon. The height of a tile is shown in the top left corner of the screen. We're at 2 height currently. We've got actions. A unit can take a single action every turn. The list of all their possible actions will be shown every turn for you to choose from. Actions include everything that isn't your movement, such as attacking, using an ability, opening chests, etc. Now then, let's deal with this scum. Alright, do I have to click this? Let's go over here. And launch an attack, or a warcraft. Holy magic. We'll just attack for now. Alright. So it's telling us it'll take 23 health away. It's got a 99% chance to hit. I wonder if that's a real percentage or a fake percentage. We've done it, and we've gotten 9 experience for it. Attacks from the sides deal more damage than from the front, and attacks from the back deal even more damage. Taking advantage of this mechanic will be crucial to victory. At the end of your turn, you'll get to select your character's facing. Try not to show your back to your enemies, as they will also deal more damage from the sides and the back. I'm gonna face this way. So I could face them, or force them to use like all their movement to get a backstab. But if I go this way, oh well, I've made a fool of myself. I forgot to look at the global turn order at the top. I figured if Alphonse went there, it'd be easier for us to deal damage. But now we've blocked him in. What's Warcraft? Forceful Strike. Deals 0.85 times physical attack damage and pushes the target away by 1 tile. Interesting. Good to know, not incredibly useful here. Just a regular attack will do. Wow, 23 from the front. Stronger than Kyrie. Let's move you up here. What does Elementalism do? Water 1, Fire 1. Oh boy, that's I don't want to deal damage in an area. That includes my friends. I'm sure Anodyne can take it. Now here's the question, is it immediate or does it take a while? It's immediate. That's pretty good. Enough, I yield. A wise choice, if a bit late in the coming. I mean, fair. The wizard just burned his comrade just to deal damage to both of you. I wouldn't want to fight them. We've gotten 722 gold, 2 snakebite oils, some ability points, and a Kyrie Never Falls bonus. Interesting. Ladies, there you are. What's this? You didn't tell me we were going to a party. Rainer, at last. Weren't we supposed to meet an hour ago? We could have used your help with these thugs. No matter. This gentleman kept us company, and now we will show our gratitude by providing him with a nice, comfy cell. You cannot be serious. Do you not know who I am? I am a lord. Lord Alphonse, to be precise. There's a bit of a delay between inputs, and it's messing me up so bad. The first words were as a nobleman, and I don't know what the rest of it was. I'm sorry. But you can pause the video, go back and read it, and then let me know what I missed. Slaying an unarmed man, attempting to eliminate the witnesses to your foul crime, and now resisting lawful arrest. There are limits to the privileges of nobility, as you are about to learn. An arbiter and a simpleton, I see. Very well, let us proceed with the farce if we must. Bring me to the Arbiter's chapter house for my trial. Are you suddenly struck dumb as well as simple? The Knight's chill does not agree with me. Make haste and escort me to the chapter house, wench. Very confident in his position. Rainer, I've decided to make a small detour to Electro. We will personally deliver this nobleman to the main chapter house. Clever. I wonder how much sway the little lordling has in Electro. Very little, I suspect. Gather our people and make everything ready. We move at first light. On it. Now to ensure you are comfortable for the trip. Outrageous! Simply outrageous! Simmer down or I'll pull out a gag next. No one bothers washing the gags in between prisoners, mind you. Well, that's just not sanitary. You have to keep those gags on you. Why wouldn't you wash them? Very well. What about the other one, Captain? Just a henchman. We'll drop him off at the local chapter house. No need to cart them both all the way to Electro. And that's our introduction to Felseal. Ooh, look at that map. Let's head for Electro now. I'm sure our eminent guest is eager to get started on his trial. Oh yeah, this is very Final Fantasy Tactics. I'm loving it. The journey may be treacherous. We should stop at the local guild here in Gelig and hire more hands for the road. An extra recruit would go a long way. Okay, let's open that troops menu. From this menu, you can manage your units, including changing their equipment, classes, abilities, etc. You can also access crafting, check your items, sort your units, and many more options. Look at the bottom right of the screen to see all the options. Explore away. Okay, difficulty settings. That's what I'm after. We're on Veteran, which is default everything. Beginner has weighted random numbers, minus 10% stats. Less enemies, less revives, less items. Okay. Default everything. This maxes up the level scaling. Extra enemies, more enemy gear. Very hard, no max. Alarming, plus 10%. Elite enemies. Full gear. Enemies always use drowning. What? More revives, many items, and they use those items. And then custom. Okay. interesting. I'll probably keep it on veteran, why not? Injury system. This is the default injury system. When a character falls in combat, they will have a penalty to all of their stats until they rest for a full battle. Resting means you won't deploy them during an encounter. This setting encourages the player to create a few substitute units. Okay, none. There are no penalties when a character falls in combat. This is not recommended unless you feel things are just too hard. I like that even if they explicitly don't recommend it, they still give you the option. That's nice. AP Malice. When a character falls in combat, they will earn less AP at the end of battle. Falling multiple times will further reduce the amount. This is a good alternative to the regular injury system if you really don't want to ever bench anyone. Default permanent. Injuries are permanent and will never heal. Each injury will give the character minus 5% to a random stat. This is only recommended if you want a greater challenge and permadeath. Injuries are permanent, minus 5% to a random stat. Once a character has gotten 5 injuries, they will be unable to participate in combat anymore. Story characters, other than the main character, are not exempt from this. Most people should probably not use this option. Again, explicitly against it, but they still give it, which I think is really cool. We'll keep it on default. I'm intrigued by the injury system, but I don't want it to wreck me. Random numbers. Game uses a simple 1 to 100 roll. Okay, let's see. We are at 16 minutes of recording. The rest of the episode is just going to be me reading through these difficulty settings because I'm fascinated by it and I think it's really interesting and a cool thing to implement in this game. A cool thing to implement in many games. So if this is boring, you're not going to miss anything by stopping the video here, but I will know. I will know you stopped it here. But it's okay, you have my permission. If you do head out, I've been Atticus, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. And if you want to stay here and read about the various difficulty settings, let's get to it. Random numbers. The game uses a simple 1 to 100 roll, just like rolling a D100. This is roughly as true of a random system as you can get in a video game. That's fun. I like the quotes around true. Or weighted. The game will use a randomizing system that's more in the player's favor. Alright. The level scaling. Defaults recommended. That makes sense. Each map has a minimum and maximum level range for enemies, so they will try to keep up with your level. But if you're struggling, you could raise your level to pass theirs and thus overpower your foes. Okay, so max up is just going to increase the maximum level they can be. Okay, and then no max, they will always scale with you. You'll never be able to get bigger numbers. Neat. Raw stats scaling. Enemies will have the stats of a character of their level would normally have. For the most part, these are the same stats you would have if you'd level your character in the current class almost exclusively. We can give them minus 5% if you want that small extra edge, minus 10% to make things easier, minus 25% to make things quite a bit easier. And I imagine it's the same in the opposite direction. Make things a little harder, make things harder, If you want to prove that you can beat the AI soundly, plus 15%, plus 25%. If you want to prove, wow, it just keeps going up. Plus 50%. It's probably not a good idea to use this. Encounters won't be properly balanced in general. And it caps out at plus 75%. That's terrifying. Okay, we're going to keep that at default. Added enemies. You will face the regular amount of enemies. The game was primarily balanced around these encounters. Or you can get extra, usually one more. Less balanced, more in the enemy's favor. But if you're after a challenge, this is the way to go. I mean, if you're after a challenge, you just do that. Goodness. Elite. Some maps will have extra enemies, usually 1 to 2 more. In some encounters, 1 or more enemies will be replaced by a special version of the enemy with more abilities. This, a different and more interesting way to raise the difficulty than simply increasing enemy stats. Agreed. I think I will fiddle with all these settings. They give it to us, they give so many. really helps the player fine-tune the Fell Steel experience for them. This is so neat. Enemies' gear. Enemies will have a fair amount of gear on their person. They usually won't grab all the accessories they can, but they should otherwise mostly wear as much as they can once the story picks up. If you can give them less, they'll have one less piece gear than normal on average. Should make things fairly easier while being more randomized than simply dropping their stats by a set amount. All of these are just... I guess they... I'm really enjoying how it's... So far, the two after stat scaling are like, yeah, don't scale the stats. Do this cooler stuff instead. It's very good. They'll have one more piece of gear than normal. Or they'll fill every equipment slot they can. This means they'll wear as much gear as they can and fill the rest with various accessories. This might increase the challenge in unforeseen ways at times. Interesting. I wonder what that means. We've not really gotten into the equipment system of this game, so I'm not sure how much of an impact equipment has. See, enemies' passives / counter. Enemies will always spawn with passives and counters if their level is high enough, or enemies will have a chance of spawning without passives or counters, even if they are high enough level. Okay. The drowning. Enemies will attempt to drown the player's units most of the time, if it would be possible for them to do so. A unit that cannot swim, that gets pushed or teleported into water, will drown, dealing all their HP and damage. Please note, drowning units is a basic mechanic, and has many forms of counterplay. That's so alarming. And like, it's in Into the Breach. There's a lot of mechanics where you reposition the enemies, and if you can reposition enemies that stand on the ground into water, they die instantly. And that's a pretty interesting way to engage with the turn-based, grid-based combat that we have in these games. It just sounds so alarming. A difficulty setting called enemies use drowning. Like, is it immediate? I feel like they should get like at least one turn for someone to rescue them if they can't swim. Terrifying. Only bosses. Only bosses with abilities centered around drowning units. I know they said this is a basic mechanic, but bosses with abilities centered around drowning units? Terrifying. They'll attempt to drown the player's units. Regular enemies will never specifically attempt to drown the player. You might still get pushed into water by accident, but it will be very unlikely. And always, if an enemy could drown a player unit, it will always favor it, as long as it's the best action the AI deems it could take. We're gonna go down to default. Revive. Enemies will sometimes revive other fallen enemies. They have decreasing odds of doing so the more often a target has died. Oh no. They have a low maximum amount of times they can do this per battle. Less is a very low maximum amount of times they can do it. None. They will never revive other fallen enemies unless it's part of the encounter. Or we can do it more. They have a high maximum amount of times they can do this per battle. This could lead to significantly lengthier battles if you're not careful. I like how they just say lengthier, not necessarily more difficult, just longer. In my experience, SRPG maps tend to be long in general, but I spend a lot of time thinking. It's my problem in chess too. I spend a lot of time trying to get to like the optimal solution, and if I'm on a clock, I'm gonna run out of time. That's just a given. Enemies have items. They have access to a small stockpile of items. In general, they will have less than you, but might have access to higher tiers faster than you if you're leveling faster than normal. This is the recommended option. Enemies will not have access to any items, although they will start with a stockpile of items so you can steal from them as normal. Okay. That's neat. I like how it doesn't punish you. If you're here, you are probably having a difficult time. Enemies are healing. It's a close battle anyway, and their use of items just tips the balance of their scale, so take that away from them. But they don't want to punish you by also obliterating the steal option. That's good. Difficulty should not be punishing. Many. Enemies will have access to as many items as you do, although they might have access to higher tiers faster than you if you're leveling faster than normal. This is more challenging. And enemies use items. Enemies will have a good chance of making use of items when they need them. They have a low chance, or they have... enemies will make use of items when they need them, not even a high chance, they just will do it. Okay, well, I'm going to keep everything on default, and we'll see how it goes. I'm intrigued to see how some of these change the game, especially like Elite. That's the most intriguing one to me. And with that, I think we're going to call it for today. We'll continue this in a week. Hopefully cover more ground as long as I don't get distracted by random settings. Until then, I've been Atticus. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.